If all of a sudden you hear random music, that's because it's in my daughter's room and she's blasting it because she is sick yet again and she's right across the hall. Hey Booktube, it's Kim from Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is my bookish week for Sunday, February 25th. Is it? 5th? No? Yes, it's 25th. I had to do some math, quick calculations. I used to be good at math. I like math. So yes, this is my bookish week. I had a good one, a really good one. I finished 4 books. Well, I finished 3 books, but I'm wrapping up another one that I didn't wrap up from last week. You know, you get it. And one of them I can't talk about, but I'll tell you why. So let me get going on these reviews. I am wrapping up The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was a buddy read with Heidi from My Reading Life and Doris from All D Books. And I am planning on reading the whole rereading the whole trilogy. So the second one is The Two Towers. I read The Hobbit the end of last year and finished this one. And then got to talk to my buddy readers, but I might need to take off in March and then maybe pick it back up again in April. Not sure yet. We'll see. It seems like a good timeline for me. But let's wrap up The Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, what do you not know? Hobbits, elves, wizards, trolls, not trolls, dwarves, who else? Men, kings, elven castles, like evil and orcs and all kinds of stuff. It's Middle Earth. And Frodo has left the Shire in order to take the one true powerful ring and hopefully on his quest to destroy it, to save the world, to save Middle Earth. And the Fellowship bands together. It is made up of 4 hobbits, 1 wizard, 2 men, 1 dwarf, 1 elf, and I think that's it. And they start on this quest. You must have all heard of this. You must have either read the books or seen the movies. It is just a joy to read. It is a joy. It is magnificent to listen to on audio. I have endlessly gushed about Andy Serkis on audio, reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He is the actor who played Gollum in the movies. But his narration is just perfection. But this is just the best, the origination of the fantasy world and the master, Tolkien. Just read it. I read the books. They're just spectacular. Easy 5-star for me. Reading it in combination with the audio was perfection. And I just had a blast. I had the best time. And Heidi and Doris are both rereading it as well. And Heidi rereads it repeatedly. And it's just so fun to talk to people, talk to other fantasy nerds who love it as much as I do. And it was just so much fun. So highly recommend this on audio. Highly recommend the books. Give these to any teenager you know who really wants to get into fantasy or who likes fantasy, hasn't read them yet. Just hand it out to anybody. Hand them out like chiclets. Okay, what else did I finish? I'm going to put you on hold for just a second. Okay, I'm back. What else did I finish? I read Dead Girls by Selva Almada. This is translated from the Spanish by Annie McDermott. And this was a buddy read with Sherry Hart, a subscriber and commenter on many of our channels. Sherry and I have read a few other things in the past, and she's a wonderful buddy reader. And we both wanted to read this one. It's a slim novelization. Now, Selva Almada is a journalist, and this is kind of a novelization of journalism or journalistic novelization. I'm not sure how you want to describe it. But she is writing about stories of different young women who were murdered in Argentina, and they are all true stories. But she does fictionalize some of the context and the text to kind of get these stories out there. And it's basically commentaries on femicide. And these 3 main stories are horrific in their context. But it's horrific that this is a cultural phenomena that is well known, that is has been well known for a very long time, that exists in cultures of misogyny and hatred of women, and is just in some circles accepted as something that you are able to do. If you are a man and happen to kill a woman, you can pretty much get away with it pretty easily. And Almada talks about that, and she talks about these three women's stories, the families that they left behind, if they were found after their disappearance, how they were found. Were they discovered to have been murdered? What were their stories? What was it like to live in this impoverished area where these young women disappeared? Now, the topic is important, and these women's stories are important, but the execution of it was clunky and awkward. And I liked the book, but parts of it didn't work. There were a lot of going back and forth in time, but because the stories, some of the pieces of the stories were similar, it was very difficult to figure out which girl she was talking about at which time and which characters and who was who. And it got very muddy to try to figure that out continuously through the book. It is quite short, and if she's trying to put it across in a journalistic way, it's too short for that. But the other reason she was doing it that way is to keep her own physical safety intact, because as a journalist reporting on these types of crimes, she could have had her life in danger. But yeah, it was the writing was a little awkward, the time jumps were a little awkward, but it's a very important topic. Could have been a longer book, and I think it could have been quite a bit more effective had it been. The next one I finished, took me a while, but I did it. George Eliot, A Biography by Gordon Haight. Oh, this was a 4-star read for me. Much of the material in this book, and this was published in the 60s, much of the material is transcripts of letters, because that's what the Victorians did. They wrote letters, continuous letters. And so a lot of the text is pieces of letters that either George Eliot wrote or received from many, 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 and to many, many, many different types of people. So there was a lot of letter reading. If you're not into that, it would be very tedious. But there's so much about Marianne Evans, who became George Eliot, and so much insight. She was raised by, I forget her father's name. Robert Evans. Yes, Robert Evans. And she was born and raised on an estate. He was an estate manager in the English countryside. She started off in life a fairly religious young girl, became an evangelical religiously, I think you know what I'm trying to say. She became much more of an evangelical religious young woman, and then actually gave up her religion to become more of a believer in God, not quite an agnostic, but didn't believe in the evangelical movement, and went on from there. She became very much a lover of science, philosophy, arts and literature, languages. She was extremely intelligent, highly intelligent, intellectual woman. And one of the interesting things about her is she was always described as ugly. And Henry James, upon meeting her, described her as, I think it was magnificently ugly, hideous. Those are some of the words used that Henry James used to describe her. But then he said once she started to speak, he became enraptured with her beauty. And those were descriptions very similar to what many people described her as. She was a very plain young girl, and I think her father noticed early on that she probably would have difficulty finding a husband in the Victorian age, so he had her educated. And she was highly educated, extremely intelligent. And George Eliot never became a very strong feminist, but what she did believe in was the same opportunities for education and for wealth should be afforded to women. She was somewhat of a supporter of women's colleges, but not a supporter of women getting the vote. And very interesting. She was extremely insecure. She very, very insecure about her writing, and she felt before every single novel that she published, She felt that nobody was going to like it. She was a horrible writer. It was awful. She was going to get criticisms. And right after she wrote Adam Bede, her career started to take off. Right after she published Adam Bede, her career took off. And she was considered the best English novelist ever, or the best novelist ever with text written in English. She was with her partner, George Lewes, for 24 years. And they were never legally married because Lewes was already married to Agnes, and Agnes had several children with George, but she also had several children with her lover, Thornton Hunt, and George Lewes was in charge of financially supporting everybody because there was no divorce. There would have been no divorce. And so he was supporting children that weren't his, even though he claimed they were his. And George Elliot considered them married for their 24 years. They were ostracized from society until she became famous as an author. And then, of course, everybody wanted to be invited to their salons, to their intellectual salons at their homes. So much good stuff to learn about her. She was never legally married until she was 60. And she got married to a man 20 years younger than her, and was married to him until her death. They weren't married for very long. But it's so good. This was a much better biography than the one by Frederick R. Carl that I read a few years back. Even though this can get tedious with the number of people that this author wrote about her meeting. She was a contemporary of Anthony Trollope, Charles Dickens, Thackeray, Emerson, and many, many scientists and intellectuals. Herbert Spencer, Darwin at one point lived down the road from her. So there's a lot of text in here with all the different names, a lot of name dropping. And some of the names I recognized, many of them I did not. But it's so fun and so good to find out more about her. Good biography if you're really into that densely packed information. And here's the last book, but I can't talk about it because this is a book that I read for my In Real Life book group with the Critical Chicks, and this is Crow Mary by Kathleen Grissom. I finished it. I don't want to reveal how I feel about it at this stage. We are meeting on March 8th, and after that, my next Bookish week, I will wrap it up then, but did finish that this past week. What am I currently reading? All the same stuff as before. I will be finishing Grapes of Wrath this week by John Steinbeck. This is a side project with my group, the Critical Chicks, and we'll be finishing that soon. I am going to continue my reread of Middlemarch through March for the group with Classics and Company, and this will also apply to March of the Mammoths for the month of March. This is my third reread or my third reading of Middlemarch, and beautiful, wondrous, wonderful, beautiful, fantastic. And what I am looking forward to picking back up is Toni Morrison's Paradise. And this is, again, a second attempt for me. I will finish it this time. But I am about a third of the way through. I haven't picked this up in a couple of weeks, I think. But now that I'm done with 4 other books, I will be finishing this. I won't be picking up anything new except one book that I will show you because I have another buddy read with Judy Brown. Judy and I are reading the Frederica Potter series from A.S. Byatt, and this is the second one. We read The Virgin in the Garden in January, and we're going to be picking the next book up, the second book, in March. This is Still Life by A.S. Byatt. This is the only new book I'm going to pick up while I'm finishing the other 3 books I'm currently reading, because I don't want to keep loading myself up. When I get a bunch of books that I'm loaded up with, I get antsy and I get a little anxious because there's too much going on, and I don't like that. So I am going to work on these 3 books that I am currently reading, and I'm going to work on finishing these. Middlemarch will go through the end of March. So I will finish these 2, and I will be adding Still Life probably on March 1st. I do have other buddy reads scheduled, so I will be finishing some books before I pick up the new buddy reads, and I'm really looking forward to all of those. That's it for this week. This was a short one, even though I finished a bunch of stuff. I hope I described everything pretty well. I just wanted to mention, on March 4th, I am starting a new job, and so my schedule might be getting a little crazy. I'm going to try to keep to the same posting schedule. And I should be able to do it if I plan ahead and I film some more videos over the weekend when I have the time. But I'm really excited about this. It's a brand new opportunity for me. Lots of huge advantages financially and professionally. So hopefully my stress levels are low and my paychecks are high. And I do believe they will be. So that's it for me. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Keep your eye out for, I'm going to try to post 2 videos this coming week. Another audiobook installment. And I'm going to try to post some answers to your Q&A questions. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.